Hello my people, welcome to this YouTube channel, and today we are going to take off a substructure. And taking off, we know that it's normally done in a unit referred to as measurement of building and civil works. So in today's lesson, we are going to learn about taking off a substructure. And first thing we are supposed to do is you study the plan and the section that you have been given. So according to the plan, we have been given the dimensions. And when we cut the plan along section AA, along this section AA, we are going to find the section where we are going to get the foundation, the walling, the hardcore, the blinding, the floor bed, and all other details. So when we cut the plan along section AA, we are going to get something like a section like that. Then according to our question, we have been told that some of the note better we have been given that the site is bushy, the topsoil is 250 millimeters, and you ignore the reinforcement. Then you have been asked to take off all works up to DPC level for that substructure. So first things first, you're supposed to list down the items that you want to measure. And first thing, we first of all clear the site, and during the clearing of the site, that's where we are going to excavate the vegetable soil, or you remove the topsoil. Then in the next, after removing the topsoil, we go to excavating the foundation trenches. After you excavate the foundation trenches, we are going to deal with plucking and strutting. What do we refer by plucking and strutting? After you excavate the foundation trenches, you might realize that the soil that you are dealing with is not stable for construction, so you will require to do plucking and strutting. Then from there, we have some blinding so that we can start building our foundation. Then we lay the VRC foundation concrete. From there, we do the walling. After we have done the walling, we are going to do some hardcore. Now, building the house itself inside, we are going to do the hardcore, the blinding. After the hardcore, then you are going to lay some insecticide treatment so that you can prevent any default that might happen to that building. Then we have got a DPM. A DPM is normally a membrane that you lay on top so that you can prevent the moisture from maneuvering into your building. Then we have got the floor bed. The formwork on the floor bed, after you lay the floor bed, you must do some formwork to support the concrete for it to cure and stay stable for construction. Then we have got a DPC, which is a membrane that you put along the wall to prevent the moisture from maneuvering. So we start with our calculation. First, it is clearing the site, and the area that we are going to clear the site, it is the same area that we are going to remove the vegetable soil. So we clear a site. While clearing the site, we are clearing the whole site where we are going to do our construction. So in clearing the site, remember that we have been given the dimension of our plan where we are going to lay our building. Now, and according to our section AA, we have been told that from the foundation, it has got a thickness of 600, and whatever we have been provided for on the plan, it is the thickness of the wall, which is 200. So we will have to clear the site, even the dimension where we are going to do our foundation. So we have got the thickness of the wall, which is 200. So we must add these foundation spreads. We must add these foundation spreads because we must clear the whole site so that we can be able to start now doing our construction. So the dimension we have been given for the wall is 200. According to our plan, we'll have to add these foundation spreads. The foundation spread is along this part. This is what we refer to as the foundation spread. So for us to calculate the foundation spread, we had been told that the foundation has got a thickness of 600, and the wall has got a thickness of 200. So for me to get the dimension of this end and this end, I'm supposed to do 600 I less 200, then I'm supposed to get 400. Then to get each spread, it's 400 divided by 2. So this side is 200 millimeters and this side is 200 millimeters. So then from there, we calculate. The length of our plan was 6,200 and the width was 5,000. The 2,800 plus the 2,200. So we get 5,000. We are adding the foundation spread, which is 2 by 200. This side 200 and 200. So we add 2 by 200. We get 6,600 for the length and 5,000 for the width. So taking off, we are going to say that clearing the site, we are going to clear the site at dimension of 6.60 because remember, all the dimensions that we put on the dimensional column, they are supposed to be in meters. And whatever we have worked out on our descriptive column, it is in millimeters. So we convert the dimensions, we are going to get 6.60 by 5.40. Then you are supposed to explain what are we dealing with in these dimensions. We clear the site of all bushes and grasses and undergrowth, and we burn away all the arising. Then after we clear the site, the same area we are clearing the site is the same area that we are going to do the excavation of the topsoil. So we say excavate the topsoil an average of 250 millimeters deep to remove the vegetable soil and deposit in soil heaps or 50 meters away from the site. So we are supposed to, in clearing the site, the dimension that we are clearing the site, it is 6.60 by 5.40. But remember, our figure is not a full rectangle. We have got this part that we are not going to deal with, and this part where there no construction is taking place at this two parts. So what are we supposed to do? We learned that in measurement there's something we refer to as deducting. So we are going to deduct the recess. Are we together? Yeah, so for us to deduct the recess, what are the dimensions of these areas that we are not going to do those activities? The dimensions are, for the length it's 2,000 and for the width is 2,200, and it's of similar dimension. This area and this area, they are of similar dimensions. What do? We know that on the dimensional paper, we have got the timesing column. So for the timesing column, I'm going to say it is 2 by the dimension 2.20 by 0 by 2.00. Yeah, so we deduct. What are we deducting? We are going to say we are deducting clearing the site as described above. What do we mean by as described above? We are deducting an area that is recessed. We are not going to deal with it. So it's as described above, that like we had described in our previous point. Then another thing we are deducting is excavating the topsoil, an average of 250. We are not going to excavate the soil the topsoil at that point, because we are not going to deal with it according to our plan. The plan is given in that dimension and in that figure. So we go to the next items to measure, which is excavating the foundation trenches. So we are done with clearing the site. Why do we clear the site? Because the vegetable soil is not suitable for construction, is not even stable for us to do construction on top of it, so we remove it. So we go to excavating the foundation trenches. So we are excavating these foundation trenches, and remember, according to our section, from the ground level, that's where we removed from the ground level, that's where we removed the topsoil. So remember, here we are already on a level that it is negative 250. So while taking off the excavation of the foundation trenches, we normally deal with something referred to as centerline. What do we mean by centerline? That I am going to digging the trenches. We are digging the trenches in my whole figure all around. So I'm going to deal with something referred to as calculating the centerline. And the formula to calculate the centerline, it is external perimeters. We less the number of corners, the number of external corners minus the number of internal corners into brackets, then we multiply by the thickness of the wall. So the external perimeter, it will be 2 by, and kindly realize that in my descriptive column here, I have written nil. What do we mean by nil? That remember during measurement, we don't cancel or cross anything. So the right way to say that thing you have put there, it should be omitted. We are supposed to say it's nil. So kindly remember, and the mistake that I made is that I wrote the dimensions on my descriptive column in meters, and they're supposed to be in millimeters. While putting them on the dimension column, that's when I put them in meters. So I redid, and I have said that external perimeter, it is 2. The formula is 2 into brackets length plus width. The length of my plan was 6,200 and the width was 5,000. So 2 by 6,200 plus 5,000, I'm going to get 22,400. Then I less the number of external corners. We have got an external corner here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The number of external corners are 6. How many internal corners do I have? I have an internal corner there and an internal corner there. So I have got 2 internal corners. So to get the number of corners, it will be 6, deduct 2. I get 4. So the number of corners are 4. I multiply by the thickness of the wall, which was 200. So I'm going to get 22,400. I less 800, I'm going to get 21,600. So meaning, while taking off the foundation trenches, and kindly note on the areas we deal with center line. It's not all areas we are dealing with center line. Mostly center line, you are going to deal with it well in the foundation trenches because it is in my whole figure all around, in walling because it is in my whole figure all around. Things that we are dealing with the whole figure all around, we are dealing with the center line. So for the center line, we are going to get, it is 21,600. Then that we are going to use it as the length. So on the plan, we have already gotten the length, and excavating the foundation trench, we are going to deal with volume. So whatever I'm missing, it is the width and the depth. So to get the width of the foundation that we are supposed to excavate is 600. It has already been indicated on the section. So the width is 600. Then we go now to the depth. What depth are we going to excavate? Remember, we have already removed a vegetable soil dimension of 250 from the ground level. So the dimensions that I'm going to take to get the depth that I'm going to excavate, it will be 750. I add 200 and I add 50. I get the total depth. 750 plus 200 plus 50. Then I less the 250 that I had already removed the vegetable soil. So what am I going to get? I'm going to get 750. When I add 250, I get 500. Then I am supposed, when I less 250 for the vegetable soil, I get 500. Then when I add the foundation concrete and the blinding, we get 750. So we get a depth of 750. And kindly remember, while we are taking off the foundation trenches, we take it off in form of beads as we are requested from the SMM. We normally take it in form of beads, whereby the depth must not exceed 1,500 millimeters or 1.50 meters. So we take the excavation of the foundation in beads. So as we can realize that our dimension is less than 1.50. So when it is more than 1.50, we take the one that it is not less than 1.50. Then the rest we take it off and we say not exceeding 3.00. Yeah, I shall illustrate that one in our next video, so we shall understand more. So on this, the dimension is not exceeding 1.50. So we are going to say it is the excavation of the foundation trenches commencing from the stripped level. What do we mean by the term stripped level? We already removed the topsoil from the ground level. So the level that we arrived at, it is the stripped level. So we say that from the strip level not exceeding 1.500 depth. And then we refill and ram. Why are we saying we refill and ram? That the amount of soil that we are going to excavate, we are not going to cut away it. We say there are two types of soil during taking off. There is the cutaway soil and the refill and ram. Refill and ram is the one that we preserve so that we can backfill in the areas after we have done with all the constructions. All the area that's supposed to be backfilled, we use the soil in the refill and ram. But an example, like for the cutaway soil, it's a cutaway soil is a soil that we cut away. We don't need it anymore. For example, the vegetable soil, we don't need it on the site during construction anymore. So what do we do to it? We cut away the soil. So according to our excavation, we are going to refill and ram the soil. So we are going to spare it and put it somewhere that is safe. Then we go to the next item. It is plucking and strutting. I have said that plucking and strutting is after you excavate and you realize that the soil is not stable for us to do the construction. You're supposed to support it through a process referred to as plucking and strutting. Why are we taking it off in form of an item? We are taking it off in form of an item because not unless I go and do the excavation of the trench, that's when I'm going to realize whether I will need the plucking and strutting or not. So how do we take it off? We take it off in form of an item. We say that plucking and strutting to the sides of the excavation trenches, and we allow the watering. In case you realize that the place is too watery, we are going to allow the watering. So these are instances that not unless I go to the site and start the process of construction, that's when I'm going to realize whether I'm going to need the plucking or the watering. But in the BQ, we allocate some amount of money to do these things. So we allocate some amount of money in the BQ. While taking off, we list it in form of an item. We can't measure it. We list it in form of an item. Here we go to the next item that we are taking off. We have got the blinding. We realize that after we have done the excavation, first thing we are doing it is the blinding. We do the blinding so that we can lay our foundation concrete. So for the blinding, we are going to where are we going to blind? We are going to blind in the areas that we are going to do our foundation, and we are doing blinding in my whole figure all around. So remember, I have said that while dealing with an item where we are dealing with my whole figure all around, I'm going to so kindly I was saying that while we are dealing with blinding, it is in my whole figure all around, So I'm going to deal with the length referred to as the center line. And what is the thickness that we are going to apply the blinding? We are applying at a thickness of 600 so that we can lay our foundation concrete. So it is going to be, we are putting the dimension on the dimension column. It is the center line, which is 21.60 as we had calculated, and the width of 0.60. Then on the descriptive column, we are going to say it is a 50 millimeters thick mass concrete, ratio 1:4:8 blinding. Then remember that we had said that the soil that we had excavated from our trenches, we are going to put it aside so that we can use it in refill and ram. So remember, we have already put blinding. So the soil that we had removed from this bit that we have laid blinding, we are not going to use it. So we are going to say it is we refill and ram multiply by the thickness of that blinding 0. We are going to deduct that refill and ram. Why? Because that bit that we have laid blinding will not require any amount of soil to add to that part. So we are going to deduct from refill and ram that amount of soil multiplied by the thickness. Then we are going to add it to cut away because we are not going to need it anymore because that bit has been occupied by blinding. Are we together? Then we go now to the next. The 0.05, we have been told that the blinding is of thickness 50 millimeters. So when you convert it into meters cube, because the soil when we are dealing with the amount of soil, we are dealing it in form of cubic. So it's supposed to be the refill and the amount of soil multiplied by the thickness, which is 0.05. Then we get the amount in volume. Then we go to the next item, where we are going to deal with the VRC foundation trenches. In the VRC foundation trench, now it is this bit, the VRC foundation trench, it is at that bit, and as we can see, it is of a thickness, a width of 600 and a thickness of 200, because the blinding is the one that it is have a dimension of 50, but for the foundation trench, it has got a thickness of 200. So we are going to say VRC, and remember, for the VRC, the concrete that we are laying on the foundation, it is in my whole figure all around. So I'm dealing with center line, a length of 21.60, a width of 0.60, and a thickness of 0.20. Then we are going to say it is a VRC ratio 1:2:4 in foundation trench. And we are going to deduct the refill and ram, the amount of soil that we removed at this point where we have laid the foundation trench. We are not, with the concrete foundation trench, we are not going to require that amount of soil anymore. What do? We deduct from the refill and ram, and we add it to cut away. Then we go to the next item that we are going to measure. It is the walling. Now we are on the walling. We are done with blinding. We are done with foundation concrete. Now we are on the bit of walling. And remember, for the walling, we take it off in form of meters squared. So it is in form of area. So whatever we only need, it is the length and the depth of our wall. And we'll remember also that in walling, it is in my whole figure all around. So kindly, in my whole figure all around, I have said we are dealing with a length referred to as center line. A length referred to as center line. So we are going to use a length of 21.60 and a width of a depth of 0.75. Why a depth of 0.750? Because according to our wall, from the section AA, our wall has got a depth of 0.75 or 750 millimeters. Then we are going to describe as 200 millimeters thick wall, because the wall is of thickness 200 millimeters thick, in a cement sand ratio 1:3 mortar joist. In the ratio 1:3 mortar joist. So mortar joints. Then kindly remember that this part that have been occupied by our wall, and we did excavation so that we can be able to construct, that amount of soil that we removed in this bit of our wall, we are not going to need it anymore. Why are we not going to need it anymore? Because that part have already been occupied by the wall, So what am I going to do? I am going to say that it is a dimension, because remember I've said that for the soil we measure it in form of volume. So we are going to say a length of 21.60, which is the center line, multiplied by a thickness of 0.20. The thickness here is 0.20, the thickness of my wall, and a height of 0.50. Why a height of 0.50? Because we already removed the vegetable soil up to a point of 250. So the part remaining, the soil that we are going to deduct from the refill and ram, it is of dimension 500. So 500 for the depth. So we are going to say we deduct from the refill and ram that amount of soil, and we add it to the cut away. Then we go to the next point of the next item that we are going to measure, the hardcore blinding and the insect side. Why have I joined all those items together? Because as we all know that where do we lay the hardcore? We lay the hardcore inside our building. That now we are starting to construct the building. We are done with the foundation. Now we are constructing the building itself. So I'm going to lay hardcore inside this. I am going to lay the hardcore inside my building. That's why I'm going to lay the hardcore. Where do I put the blinding? On top. Maram blinding, it is on top of the hardcore. Then I lay that area some insecticide or the pest control, so that because we know that the pests, might bring default in our construction, which might cause some cracks. Yeah, so for the hard call, we are going to deal with a dimension of 6,200. Remember, it is a length, but it is an external dimension. And for the hardcore, we are dealing with internal dimension of my building because I lay hardcore inside my building. So I'm going to deal with a length of 6,200. Then I less 2 times the thickness of the wall. Why? Because I have got a wall on this end and a wall on this end, and I want my internal dimension. So I less 2 by 200. I'm going to get a length of 5,800 and a width of 5,000. I less 400, so I'm going to get a width of 4,600. And kindly remember, we have got those recess. This area and this one, which we are not going to lay the hardcore. And if you have dealt with the internal dimensions, we are also going to find the internal dimension of these areas. So we are going to say it is a dimension of 5.80 by 4.60. Then we describe that it is 200 millimeters thick approved hardcore, because according to our section, we had already been told it is 200 millimeters thick approved hardcore, well rammed and compacted, and a 50 millimeters thick approved maram blinding, and a treat surface with an approved, you treat the surface with approved insecticide. Why am I putting all those items together? Because they are going to use the same dimensions, because they are going to use the it's because they are going to use the same dimensions. Then we remember that for the hard call, I'm not going to lay the hard call in these areas because they are not part of my building. So what am I going to do? I am going to take, and remember that while taking off the hard call, we have used the internal dimension. So even in my areas that I'm going to deduct, it's supposed to be my internal dimension. So this is my internal dimension. This is the length that I need and the width that I need. So according to our length, we have got 2,000 from this point up to this point. Remember, we have got 2,000 from this point up to this point. So I'm going to say 2,000, I rest 200. Then remember, I'm going to add this 200. So we remain with a dimension of 2,000. Then for the width, remember for the width, this one is 2,200. So I less 200 and I add 200. So it's going to remain with a dimension of 2,200. The internal dimensions, kindly remember, it's the internal dimensions we are dealing with while laying the hard call. So we are deducting 2 by 2,000 by 2 by, why 2 by? Because it is one recess and another recess. So we are going to do it's 2 by the dimensions 2,000 by 2,200. So putting them on the dimension column the dimensions are supposed to be in meters. I lay them as 2.00 and 2.20. So we are going to say we are deducting 200 millimeters thick hard call as described above, and we deduct also 50 millimeters thick blinding as described above, and we deduct the surface treat that we are going to apply as described above. Why are we deducting them? Because we are not going to lay them at this point. Are we together? Yeah, so we go to the next bit where it's the floor bed. The next item is the floor bed. The floor bed, it is this part. The floor bed. Okay, as you can see from our diagram, this is our hardcore, this is our blinding. So the same area we have laid our hardcore in our section is the same area that we are going to apply our blinding, and the same way that we are going to apply our insecticide. So that's why I had put all of the 3 items together. We go now to the floor bed. In the floor bed, we are going to get a dimension of 6.20 by 5.00. Why? Even according to our section, the floor bed has gone even inside my walling. So what dimensions am I going to use? The external dimensions. Are you together? Kindly, we go hand in hand, the section versus the plan. The section versus the plan. The reason why we are using internal dimensions in hardcore, blinding, and insecticide, because in our section, the area that we are putting the hard core, it is not inside the wall. It is inside our building. The wall is not part of it. So that's why I had to deal with the internal dimensions. But for the floor bed, we can see according to our section, it has gone to the far end. It has gone to the far end, whereby we are dealing with, it has gone to the far end where we are dealing with the wall. So we are going to use external dimensions, which are 6.20 by 5.00. We say it is 150 millimeters thick, as we had been given in our section. It has already described for us that it is 150 millimeters thick mass concrete. Ratio 1:3:6 in the floor bed, and approved DPM. We are going to lay a DPM. As I said, that a DPM is a membrane that we lay so that it can prevent the moisture from tampering with the moisture from maneuvering into the building inside. Are you together? Yeah. So now we are on, and remember, on the floor bed, when we are dealing with the external dimensions, we deduct the recess. So we deduct 2 by 2000 by 2.2, 2.00 by 2.20. It's a deduct because it's a recess. So we are what are we deducting? It's a 150 millimeters thick mass concrete. Ratio 1:3:6 as described above, because it's not part of it. Then, and approved DPM as described above. We are not going to lay DPM in these areas because they are not part of our building, so we deduct them. Then we are almost finishing, my people. So we are remaining with an item referred to as formwork. What is formwork? Formwork, there is this the timbers the timbers that we use after constructing our bed. We normally use formwork so that it can be able to put the concrete in its position, in its dimension. You want it to be rectangular. What will make the concrete to be rectangular? Remember, during construction, the concrete is normally, we are normally mixing the cement, sand, and ballast plus the water. So it's normally wet. So what will make it stand at that position where it's meant to be? It is the formwork. The timbers that we use to support the concrete are referred to as formwork. And formwork we lay in the whole figure all around. So what are we dealing with? The external perimeter. So it will be, it's the formwork we are laying in my whole figure all around. So what am I going to deal with? Remember that I said, in my whole figure all around, something that I deal with in my whole figure all around, I deal with something referred to as a center line. I deal with something referred to as a center line. So, okay, sorry, I'm so sorry, my people, I'm so sorry. Yeah, while dealing with the formwork, remember, formwork, we have said it's the timbers that we used to surround our concrete, and we are surrounding the concrete in my, so I have already laid the floor bed in my whole figure. So I put the formwork all around. So I'm going to deal with the external perimeter. So when I deal with the external perimeter, when I take the dimension of 6,200, because I'm going to lay formwork along this length, then I add 2,800, then I add 2,000, then I add 2,200, I add 2,200, I add 2,200, 2,000, and 2,800. I'm going to get a dimension of 22,400. So that is the length of my formwork. I take it off in form of linear dimension. The linear dimension, it is going to be 22.40. Then I describe and say it is sawn timber formwork to the vertical edges of the floor bed, a thickness of 75 to 150 high. Yeah, it's normally a height. For the floor bed, it's of a dimension of 150 millimeters wide. So we are going to say it's 75 to 150 high. Yeah, for the formwork that we are going to lay all around my floor bed, where I've read there the concrete on top of the hard core. So then we are going to deal the last bit of my item to measure. It is the DPC. Remember, according to our question, we have been told to take off all the works up to the DPC level. So the last bit of my question, it is the DPC. And what's a DPC? A DPC is that membrane that we put in the walls so that it cannot allow moisture from maneuvering through up the building. Yeah, so for the membrane that we put on the walls is the DPC. For the membrane that we put on the floor bed, it is the DPM. So for the DPC, we put it on the wall. And kindly remember that the wall is in my whole figure all around. The wall is in my whole figure all around. So in my whole figure all around, I'm going to deal with something referred to as the center line. And what was the dimension of my center line? It was 21.60. So we are going to take it off in form of linear dimension of 21.60, and we describe it as 200 millimeters wide DPC bedded into cement and sand, ratio 1:4 mortar. Yeah, kindly, all these descriptions, we normally find them on the SMM, the standard methods of measurement. Yeah, is the one that guides us while taking off anything, including the substructure, the superstructure, the staircase, all diagrams that we deal with. Yeah, all the diagrams that we deal with, we are normally guided by then SMM, the standard methods of measurement. Yeah, so kindly go through it over and over again. You practice it, and in case you have got any question, you write it on the comment section and keep practicing, and finally you will be able to take off very, very well, very nice. And it is normally very simple. A substructure, taking off a substructure, it's normally very simple, very simple. Yeah, in case you like this video, don't forget to give a thumbs up, and also you subscribe to this channel so that you can motivate us to create more content for you on the dealing with measurement, dealing with taking off. Yeah, so thank you so much, my people, for watching. Yeah, may God bless you.